Happy Wednesday, June 17th. Welcome to another exciting edition of Rate Desk. I'm your host, Michael Thomas, here to talk about multifamily interest rates and other news. Going over to the markets today, we did see the indices going up kind of earlier in the day. They had some down movements as well, so they didn't really close on a high. Everybody's very closely tracking Fed Powell's commentary and answering questions and interview questions. And he's doing a great job as far as providing stability and security to the markets. I mean, he's letting really everybody know that there is no imminent plan to pull back on the support measures in place, economically speaking, for COVID-19 related challenges we're experiencing economically. So that is a good sign, and a good sign to see that. So jumping on over to the crude oil futures remain range bound in the $37 barrel range. They came down a little bit, but they are still range bound. The U.S. 10-year Treasury yield came in a little bit from yesterday. Came in about 2 to 3 basis points, depending on where you were pinpointing that yield yesterday at. So they've come down to 0.73 today. That's 0.73 on the U.S. 10-year yield. Jumping on over to the multifamily interest rates, they also came in a little bit as well, about 3 basis points from yesterday as well. So on the 223F, we are looking at 2.45. That's 245 fixed for 35 years. And the 221D4, an unbelievable 3.10%. Very low on 40-year fixed rate construction perm financing. Going over to the agency side, remember yesterday I was quoting on the very low end of the range in that 280 number. So really the range for not the best box pricing would be somewhere between 290, maybe up to 310, depending on the market. But 290 without the greatest exceptions. That is on a Fannie Mae 10-year fixed rate loan. Freddie Mac came in a little bit. It's good to see. That's quoting closer to 310, 3.10 fixed on a 10-year financing term. What I want to talk with you today about a couple different things. One of those things I want to speak about are valuations. So the agencies as well as HUD are requiring these debt service reserve escrows that are held for some period of time. This is meant to mitigate any fallout of rental income or spikes in vacancy related to COVID-19 and related to the fallout from that or employment concerns. My position on that, I just want to share this with you today because I think it's valuable. The valuation aspect of this really is that in a cash out transaction, if you're going down that road with either of these types of loan programs, the way to think about it is you are setting aside value, right? So you've got a market value, which is good during normal times. You got a kerfuffle here in the market currently. So to settle the concerns with that, you've got this escrow. But that escrow that's setting aside is essentially trapped equity, right? It is value that's trapped and can't leave. When can it leave? Well, it can leave when the coast is clear, economically speaking, and things return to somewhat of a normalization. That's when you can really get access to the value. That's why I call it trapped equity. I think that's pretty cool. And I think it's an effective way to think about a debt service reserve in these times because they're all recoverable, right? They do come back to you unless you need them. And if you need them, you're going to be glad that you have them. I guarantee you that. Last thing I want to talk about today, designs of the future. Love the future. I'm a big futurist. And I've seen presentations by Humphrey's Architect, Multifamily for Tomorrow, and recently another proposal from an architect firm that came out saying, how do we rethink design related to COVID-19 and, things where we're not really trying to, squish everybody together and amenities, et cetera. And it just made me think of this, right? I mean, there's different visions of the future. You got the Blade Runner kind of giant tower idea, which goes along with the multifamily for tomorrow, these giant, huge buildings. And then you've got really the townhome, suburban, spread out model. Somewhere between there exists likely what the best design idea is going forward. But if you're in smaller structures that are spaced out further, buildings, spaced out further, that gives you more space, right? And if you've got units that are more spaced out, then that gives you space as well. Then there's the whole elevator thing, right? Do you need an elevator or do you not need an elevator? If you need an elevator, you got to stand in these circles and keep this distancing thing, which, may or may not be easy depending on the density of the building that you're in, okay? So those are all really interesting things to consider in designing multifamily properties going forward from here. Another idea that came out that I read in this architect's proposal was talking about built-ins or designated spaces for example, for an office. That's a good idea as well. There, in the 90s, there was more of this design idea of having these kind of built-ins and these designated spaces. We got away from that. Will there be a return to that? Will multifamily now have these different elements that are meant to make life more comfortable when you're living more of your life in your multifamily space? Those are my thoughts for today. Thank you for tuning in to another exciting edition of Rate Desk. I am your host, Michael Thomas, signing off.